Good morning, welcome. What is the secret to effective information security trainings? How do we ensure that a security training actually results in secure behavior? This is today's very interesting topic, and my guest is Wilbert Pijnenburg, information security expert, manager, and trainer. Welcome, Wilbert. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Cybersecurity awareness is a very interesting topic. Experts have been warning that the majority of information security risks are due to human behavior. And they also keep emphasizing the importance of security education and culture. So a lot of companies invest increasingly in awareness trainings, programs, campaigns, but yet we still regularly face information security breaches due to banal mistakes such as clicking on the wrong link or using weak passwords or answering a WhatsApp message that asks for our verification code. Why is this? How can we change this? Is it at all possible to change this through training? These are the questions that I hope to get some answers to from Wilbert as an expert in this field. Wilbert, you have extensive experience in information security as well as management and training. As commercial director at InfoSecure, your mission is to help organizations educate employees and turn them into the first line of defense against cyber risks. What is special about your training method? What distinguishes it from other methods?
I think if you look to the companies who focus on human factor, you see that there are a lot of companies who are focusing on it, and they all have a different approach. If you go to the consultancy firms, they probably focus on giving workshops once a year. And there are some organizations, they think that security awareness is the same like phishing. So they only do phishing tests and they sell phishing tools. And there are also organizations, they think that if you deliver 800 e-learning modules in 50 languages, and you just deliver a username and a password to a company, that people start changing their behavior. And probably that's not true. If you look to InfoSecure, we on the one hand have the consultants who have the knowledge and experience in changing behavior, training people, psychology background. But on the other hand, we also have the tools. We have the e-learning, the games, we have the testing material, testing tools to test human behavior. And I think that what makes us special is that we have both. We have the knowledge and the consultants who can guide a company, and we have the tools we can use in making a security awareness program effective. And that, I think, makes us special.
You use behavioral theory to design trainings that lead to actual behavior change.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the model that you use?
Yeah. If you look to a couple of years ago, the focus primarily was on knowledge. We focused on knowledge, we talked about policies and guidelines, and that was it. And a couple of years ago, we started to think, no, the focus should be on the human factor, should be on behavioral change, not only on transferring knowledge. So we took the model of Eichen, theory of planned behavior, and that model explains three items: the attitude, motivation of an employee, the perceived of the norm, and what is an employee thinking, what is expected from him, and the behavior control. Is an employee capable in executing the behavior, what is expected from him? So that are the three aspects of the model we use. And we started to develop a cultural scan, and we included that model in it, and we now use it to investigate and to analyze the awareness maturity model, the culture of an organization. We use that. And it helps us a lot in developing effective security awareness programs for our customers. So that's the model we use.
So if I understand correctly, you have 3 components that determine human behavior.
Yeah.
One is personal attitude. What do I think the result of my behavior will be? And how do I evaluate that result? And the other one is social norm. This, what the people around me think and expect of me. Or what they do, even. And then the perceived control is how capable am I to behave in the expected way. How do you address these components in your trainings? How can you make sure that all 3 components are addressed?
If you look to the model, there are 3 ways. We first try to investigate all the three items. We ask questions to the employees, and we give them a sort of statistical overview. When we ask these questions, and when an employee answers in a sort of neutral or negative way, we also ask them to elaborate on that answer. And we ask them, why do you think this? Or why do you think it's hard to comply with that rule? Or why are you not able to comply with that rule? And then when we use the model, the employees, they gives us the answers. So they tell us, okay, but I don't have that knowledge, or I don't have the skill, or I don't have the right tools. And what we do then, we try to answer those things, and we give them back in the security awareness program. So we focus on the knowledge they don't have, or the skills they don't have, or maybe, and that's not always capable with our own programs, but maybe it's easier to give them, for example, a tooling. Like if the employees say it's very difficult to remember all the passwords, maybe it's much easier to change their environment and give them the right tooling. So it's easier to comply with the policies. So we learn from the security awareness scan, and we translate the results in our programs. And yeah, that's how it works. And sometimes it's knowledge, sometimes it's skills. Sometimes it's about tooling. It depends a little bit on where the origin of the gap is. Yeah.
Yeah, I would also imagine that there are areas where it's relatively easy to change behavior because there is a personal motivation to behave in a secure way. For example, using strong passwords or using different passwords for different accounts. That is, an employee might think, yeah, that is useful. That helps me protect myself, my bank account, my email, my family pictures in the cloud. So there is motivation, and these things are also relatively easy to do for the employee. Or maybe you can give them the tooling, like a password manager. But how can you change behavior when it comes to areas where there is no or little personal involvement? So, for example, when it comes to information that is very important to the company, but not so much to the employee on a personal level, at least. So, for example, when it comes to not using public Wi-Fi to send company emails, or not saving work files on your private laptop. So things that people might not really feel so motivated to. What is important to the company is not necessarily important to you as a person.
I noticed a lot that organizations, they really want to focus on the personal benefits, on the private environment, because it's so easy to explain. And for a person, it's very easy to understand that if they don't have their family pictures anymore, that they have a problem. But there's also a downside, because we don't want to explain what the benefits of a personal life is. We really want to express, and we must explain what the benefits for the organization is, or maybe what the benefits of your customers are. So only focusing on a personal benefit is also a little bit a shortcoming. We really have to focus on the benefits for the organization and for maybe for customers. And I think that's rather important. To do that. You mentioned the example of the public Wi-Fi, It's maybe also a little bit an example which is difficult to explain, because if you look in reality, more and more applications are using end-to-end encryption at this moment. So it's very difficult to explain why that is important, because it's less important by the day. I think if you want to make it personal, maybe we can do, if you also look to the model, and if you look to motivation and attitude, people have to understand what the importance for the organization is. You can do that in one hand by using storytelling, stories from other companies, what happened there. I don't know if that is the strongest form. On the other hand, you can do that by small simulations, by testing behavior. And when you do testing and simulation, and the most famous one, of course, is a phishing test, but you can do a lot of other testing. But when you give the testing results back to the employees and you inform them on how they are doing as an organization, then it's becoming personal and real. And when we only keep on talking about what's happening in general and what happened in the other firms, everyone will tell you, yeah, but that's not the case in our organization. That's not for me. That's for all the others. We don't think that risk is real. But when we start using real-life examples and simulations, and we use that results, then we make it personal and real. And I think we have to keep on doing that. That's also why I always try to focus on, okay, let's do simulation and testing. We have to measure behavior. But be careful that you don't only put that results back to management. But that's what often is happening. We have a report, and that report is delivered to management, and okay, see maybe also how bad we are doing. That's not important. We have to use these figures and give it back to the employees so that they can see that is a real risk, and that we confront employees with their own behavior. And then it is very strong if you use that in your campaign, and it's more than only motivation. And then you focus on the risk of the organization and less on only the risk of a personal person in private life.
Your trainings are very interactive. You use gamification. You have a security escape game. You use VR technology. Does gamification help to make the employees aware of the risks?
Gamification first is fun. If we only focus on policies and what everyone has to do, sometimes it's also a little bit boring. So it helps. And what gamification does is it removes the resistance against security awareness. And I think that if I look to the responses of our employees, the customers, the employees of our customers, then we even see that if we deliver games, they start on asking for more. So it even increases the demand for security awareness training. So that helps a lot. And yes, the first item what a game does is it helps in the attitude. It helps in the motivation to follow trainings. So that's very nice. But if you look in, for example, the first VR game we delivered, I think 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, in that game is also an exercise with phishing exercises. So we deliver multiple emails, and in that VR game, the employee has to recognize, is this phishing or isn't this phishing? And when you do that exercise, you see that also knowledge and skills are gained. And if you look to the knowledge and the skills, that is what that's the third level in the psychology model, perceived behavior control. Am I capable in doing what is expected from me? Can I recognize that phishing mail, and do I have the right knowledge and skills? So that's the other part of the model. So you see that a game can deliver you much more than only an increased motivation. It also delivers the multiple other items of the model, and it helps you really in gaining the knowledge and the skills and what we try to achieve in such an organization. So it helps in multiple ways. So it's a very nice way to spend attention on security awareness, and people like it. They like to have this form and enjoy security awareness.
And in these games, they work together as a team as well, right? People.
That depends on what game you're playing. We have an escape room, real escape room, then you play that as a team. We have a VR game in a truck, then you also work as a team. But at this time we are in Corona times, and meetings are not allowed. So it's very difficult to put 10 people or 15 people in a small truck. So if you look to the new games, the VR games, you do that as an individual person. So you can do it at home, or you can do it in a small group with a lot of different, and then it's in individual game.
Well, I would imagine that if you play these games together with your colleagues, then it also helps the social norms, not just the personal attitude component, but also the social norm, a common attitude towards security. And now I wonder, in your opinion, now that half of the world is teleworking, and there's no option to either meet in the office or do these trainings together with your colleagues, do we lose the power of positive social norms, security norms that have been established in the office?
Yeah, everyone is focusing on home working and teleworking at this moment, so we get that kind of questions often. If you look to the norm, the first item is what is expected of the employee, or what does he think, what is expected, and that goes about policies and guidelines. So the first is, does he know what the policies and the guidelines are? So that's still a little bit knowledge. If you talk about social norms, that's about are we influenced by our environment, by our colleagues, by our management. And yes, if you are in a physical environment, you are influenced by direct contact. But social norms is not only about physical contact. If you look at the examples, which I will explain a little bit, then that's also about communicating. I think an example, that if you go into a hotel, and you go in the bathroom, there's always a card, and on that card is please reuse this towel because it saves some money and it saves the environment. They did exercise with it, they did research with it, and one of the strongest messages you can give in a hotel room is that telling that visitor that 80% of all other guests in that room also reuse their towel. So they used the social norm in a message. Another example, you have maybe experienced that if you get a letter from your tax service, in that letter sometimes is a small sentence, and in that sentence is that 80% of all taxpayers already paid their taxes. And with that only sentence, they use social norms to push you in a way, because they say, 80% already did it, and maybe you are not the only one, but they want to push you in that social norm. So what you see is that you can also use social norms during communication and training. You don't have to be in a physical environment to, I cannot say manipulate, but to use this form in changing behavior. And I think we can also use this form when people are working at home by the right messages and the right training, and then still keep them working at home. The main thing is that we have to focus on what is the majority doing, and can we transfer the idea that the majority is doing the right thing. I think that's the case. And if you're working at home or in the office, it doesn't matter. We can still use this form in changing behavior.
Is social norm strong enough to overcome perceived control? For example, if I went to a training, even if you work at home, for example, if I went to a training and there I learned that encryption was important, so I come to the conclusion that I should encrypt my work laptop, I have the motivation. I know it would be good for me. It would be good for the company. I know all my colleagues have done it. But I have no affinity with IT at all. And I look it up, Google, encrypt your laptop, and I just get confused and annoyed because I don't understand it. What is this? So what will be stronger than my perceived control or the social norm and the motivation to comply with rules?
And the funny thing is, if you look to that last item, is this perceived behavior control. So it doesn't have to do with if there is real control, but what you think, what you have. And you talk about that you think that it's difficult to install encryption on your laptop. My first reaction when you say this is it's very easy. You go to that screen and you click on encryption and it's done. So it's easy to do. So if you look to that last item, I think that is our responsibility as the person who delivers the security awareness program, and where do we have to focus on. And the main thing we have to deliver is make secure working or safe working easy. So if I do my security awareness scan and I look at the results, I see many employees, they are asking for, give us guidelines, give us advice, clear and concise advice on how we can do things. And I think that is important for us in our programs, that we have to listen to the employees. We have to listen what they are struggling about or what they think is hard or difficult, and we have to find the answers and deliver those answers. If we can make safe working easy, if we can give the idea that safe working is easy, we win the world. And I think I really like your example about the encryption of hardware, where I really think, that's easy to do. I can really easy explain, make it dummy proof how you can do that. And I think that's our task. And when you talk about, okay, I'm in my home office and I have to encrypt, yeah, that's you as a personal person. But if you go to an organization, then you have the organization to help you. And that's what we have to do. And that must be part of your security awareness program. Listen to your employees, look where they struggle about, and give them precise advice on how they can do it, and make safe working easy. And then you get that perceived behavior control out of the negativity and make it a positive item.
It is always said that awareness is a process, and it's never complete.
No.
It has to be maintained at all times. In your opinion, how should companies approach the problem of maintaining security awareness? Should they send their employees to the same trainings over and over again, like phishing, passwords, I don't know, social engineering? Or should they look, after a while, should they look beyond those topics? Or how should they maintain an awareness level without boring employees out?
Yeah, you cannot bore your employees to death. I heard that some organizations, they say we have a security awareness program and it's laying on the shelf, and we do that every year, all over again. The same program. No, that probably will not work if you keep on repeating the same program every year. But if we want to change behavior and we want to maintain it, then repetition and continuous learning is very important, because otherwise people are complacent and then they fall back in their old behavior. You mentioned the typical topics, like for example the phishing topic, but yes, we want to repeat that. But for example, if you look back to our modules a couple of years ago, we had a module about phishing. We explained what phishing was. But if you look at the content, we only focused on receiving email on a desktop. And we explained how you could recognize that phishing. Last year, we delivered a new model. And if you look in the content of that, then now we are focusing on new threats. and actual threats. Now we say, okay, but we see more phishing. We see that it's delivered via the telephone, via SMS. We see that now phishing is coming maybe in your social media environment, maybe also what you already mentioned, the WhatsApp phishing. That was not in the module a year or 2 years ago. It is in the current model. But also, 2 years ago, we only focused on phishing when you receive it on your laptop, on your desktop. And then we said, yeah, let's hover over the link and let's look if it's is a trustworthy link or not. But nowadays, everyone is receiving emails on a mobile phone, and you cannot hover over that link to see what's beneath that. So you see that also the threats are changing, and we have to adjust these training modules. So yes, a year ago we focused on phishing, and yes, we are still focusing on phishing, but now with other threats. That's one thing. And the other thing, we have to look around us and see what's happening. Yes, WhatsApp phishing is a new threat. Maybe also if you look to CFO fraud, if you look to CEO fraud, to invoicing fraud, that are all things these are happening at this moment, and we have to adjust. So on one hand, we have to adjust the current modules, and on the other hand, we have to add new topics. And that's what we do. And then it's a continuous program. And it keeps on working also together with our employees and our customers.
Yeah, thank you for the very interesting session and insights. If you allow me one last question. As we said, your mission was to turn employees into the first line of defense against cyber risks. In your view, what would attackers do if you managed? What would attackers do in a world where everybody is security-minded, where you have achieved your mission, and people have become the strongest link in cybersecurity?
In fact, it's a little bit follow the money. As long as they find a way to earn money, they will follow that money. And it's probably a cat and mouse game. If one thing is solved, they will find another hole and try to use that. I think that the most important thing is that we will probably never solve this issue completely. But the most important thing, and maybe also a little bit the takeaway from this session, is that we cannot focus on technology alone. And if we keep on developing our organization, on one hand we have the technology solutions, and on the other hand we have the human factor. Training and programs, and as long as we keep them simultaneously developed, then I think we can win this game and be stronger than the attackers. And but we have to keep on training and spending time and attention to our employees. Yes.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I think it will happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was Anna with Wilbert Pijnenburg. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this session.